The space between thoughts, a reflection on silence, awareness, and the architecture of reality. Have you ever considered what reality is truly made of? We tend to think of it as a collection of things, objects, events, and moments, all neatly stacked one after the other. But what if we've been overlooking the most important part? What if the real foundation of everything isn't the stuff we see, but the space between it all? The silence between our thoughts, the pause between our breaths, the quiet stillness that lies beneath all the movement. We spend our entire lives chasing content. We're fixated on what we think, what we feel, what's happening next. It's a constant stream. A thought pops up, an emotion follows, and a reaction unfolds, almost like clockwork. It feels so continuous, so solid. But if you start to pay really close attention, you'll notice something incredibly subtle between every single thought. There's a tiny gap between each perception, a brief moment of open space. It's a quiet little interval where nothing specific seems to be happening, and yet you are still aware. That space isn't empty. It's not a void. It's alive with pure potential. This mirrors what we're learning from physics. What we call a vacuum isn't truly empty. It's a seething field of energy, where particles are constantly blinking in and out of existence, where tiny fluctuations are always happening. Even in what we imagine as absolute stillness, something is always going on. Reality doesn't just collapse into nothingness. It vibrates with possibility. This scientific reality reflects our own inner experience more closely than you might think. When your mind starts to quiet down, your awareness doesn't just vanish. In fact, it gets sharper, clearer. Your thoughts slow down. Your sensations become more vivid, and your sense of presence deepens. The absence of all that mental noise doesn't leave a void. It reveals something that was always there, just hidden beneath the surface. It reveals awareness itself. This leads to a profound realization. Awareness doesn't depend on thought. It's the other way around. Thought depends on awareness. It's a subtle distinction, but it's absolutely transformative. Think about it. If awareness were just a byproduct of our thinking, then silence would feel like a total absence, like turning off a light. But it doesn't, does it? True silence often feels expansive, spacious, and incredibly alive. This is why moments of deep quiet can feel so peaceful or profoundly meaningful. It's not because something new has been added to our experience, but because all the unnecessary clutter has finally fallen away. Physics shows us a similar pattern in how the universe itself is built. At the most fundamental levels of reality, order doesn't arise from constant, chaotic motion. It emerges from balance. Systems find stability when opposing forces reach a state of equilibrium. Beautiful, complex patterns form only when chaos finally settles into a state of coherence. The entire universe emerged from an almost perfectly symmetrical stata quia, uniform field of potential long before any complex structure began to unfold. In these senses, stillness isn't the opposite of creation. It's the very condition that allows creation to happen in the first place. When your awareness learns to rest in that quiet space between your thoughts, your whole perception of reality begins to shift. Your mind stops being a constant narrator, trying to explain and label everything, and it starts simply receiving reality as it is. Your sensory experience becomes richer, more vibrant. Time feels less urgent, and that constant nagging need to control everything starts to weaken. This isn't about escaping from the world. It's the exact opposite. It's about achieving a deeper, more intimate connection with what is actually here, right now. In our normal, everyday lives, the mind is a labeling machine. Good, bad, useful, dangerous, right, wrong. These labels help us navigate the world, but they also act as a filter. We stop seeing what's actually present and start seeing only our interpretations of it. Silence helps to loosen that filter. In the quiet, your experience becomes direct and unfiltered. A sound is just a sound, not a good or bad sound. A sensation is just a sensation, not something to be judged or analyzed. The rigid boundary we feel between ourselves as the observer and the world we are observing begins to soften. It doesn't vanish completely, but it becomes much less solid. Once again, physics gives us a fascinating parallel. At the quantum level, particles aren't little separate things with fixed properties. Their properties are defined by their relationships, by their interactions, by their context. If you remove the context, the property dissolves back into a wave of pure possibility. Reality, at its core, is relational, and so is our experience. Who you are in any given moment doesn't just depend on your thoughts. It depends on what you are aware of, what you choose to pay attention to, and what you allow to simply pass by without resistance or judgment. This is where your attention becomes a powerful, creative force. What you consistently give your attention to grows in clarity and detail in your experience. What you resist and fight against tends to persist and get stronger. And what you simply observe without judgment often transforms and resolves all on its own. This doesn't mean you can control reality with brute force of will. It's more subtle than that. It means you are an active participant in the unfolding of reality, and your tool for participation is your awareness. The space between your thoughts is the workshop where this participation becomes visible. In that space, there is no past you need to defend and no future you need to control. There is only this moment. There is only presence, and presence has a powerful stabilizing effect, both inside you and in the world around you. Your nervous system calms down. Your perception widens. Your body begins to respond with greater coherence and less stress. This isn't just some nice idea. It's how the universe works. Systems naturally seek balance. Fields seek stability. Energy flows most efficiently when there is minimal resistance. This isn't philosophy. It's observable, physical law. Alignment is efficient. Friction is costly. When life feels overwhelming, it's often not because there's too much happening. It's because there's too little space, too little silence between our reactions. too little room for our awareness to simply breathe. Creating that inner space isn't about withdrawing from life. It's about meeting life with newfound clarity and poise. This is why practices like meditation, contemplation, or even just taking a few conscious breaths can have such profound and lasting effects. They aren't complicated techniques to achieve some new, special state. They are simply ways of returning your attention to what has always been here, waiting for you. The space between your thoughts, the awareness behind your experience, the stillness beneath all motion. When you learn to connect with this place, your actions become more precise and effective. Your choices become clearer, and a sense of meaning begins to emerge naturally, without you having to force it or search for it. You don't need to completely silence your mind, which can feel like an impossible task. You only need to notice the silence that is already there in the gaps. Reality isn't just built from the things that appear within it. It is shaped and held by the space that contains it. And what holds every single one of your experiences, every sensation, every fleeting moment is your own awareness. If this idea resonates with you, I invite you to take a moment right now. Just pause. Notice the space between your own thoughts, and remember that this silence isn't an absence. It is the foundation from which everything arises. Thank you for watching.